well, people were led to her by well, people put it in nice terms, but let me just tell the truth, the stench. And once you've been on a crime scene and you've seen or smelled a human body, you never forget it. There's nothing like it. I've seen grown detectives, seasoned detectives, leave a crime scene in vomit from seeing the dead body or smelling the dead body. I don't know how medical examiners do it, but they do. Um, that is what led people to Jennifer's body. So cute, so young, working at this hospital, the world before her. And she was not only brutally murdered, she was wrapped in plastic, which has two effects on me to find out a dead body's wrapped in plastic. First reaction, oh, how horrible to possibly die of asphyxia from being wrapped, like hermetically sealed in plastic. And number two, part of me is dancing down the hallway because I think plastic, fingerprints, DNA, touch DNA. When Jennifer was murdered all the way back in 1999, as I recall, they didn't have touch DNA, which is slang. It's simply put, epithelial cells, which are your skin cells. When you touch, you leave behind these cells, no matter what. So that DNA can now, in many cases, be extracted from plastic's a great medium to get fingerprints and DNA. And it can be sourced many, many years later. And that's what happened here. Many, many years later, genetic genealogy was used to re-examine that plastic. DNA was found in two places, on the plastic and on her body. And genetic genealogy was used. That means, let's just pretend you have a really serious felony rap sheet and you had to give your DNA. No, let's take it another step. Let's say you've got a felony rap sheet and you didn't have to give your DNA in your jurisdiction. And I've got a match on the dead body. I go all the way back, because it doesn't really match to you specifically, all the way back up into your family tree. Let's say 100 years ago, and you follow it down, and then you figure out who in that family tree was living in that area at the time of the incident. Then you start honing in. Like in some cases, like in D'Angelo, they got, as I recall, a discarded item. It could be a pizza crust, it could be a Coke bottle, it could be anything. The cops can watch you until you get up from your table, and they go seize your glass once you've abandoned it. And they get that DNA, and then they get a match. But they've got to suspect you first. They've got to find you first. It's like a needle in a haystack.
It is like a needle in a haystack. Now, I mean, feel free to correct me because, I have a law degree somewhere in some closet, but you're actually a real lawyer.
My law degree is also in my closet, along with my law review certificate.
It's at least you were on law review, honey. I didn't quite get that far. But, I do say on this show all the time, and I joke about it, but it's no joking matter. But I mean, I say you can't kill anyone in today's day and age. With these technologies, it's right? I mean, what it's crazy how this all works. And I really learned a lot of that from this show too. I couldn't believe some of the things they were.
And it's always ironic to me that, have you ever noticed when a woman goes missing, suddenly her husband turns into a neatnik? I mean, you can find him at Walmart buying Lysol and detergent and bleach and tarps, all sorts of things, mops and rags. DNA is very hard to break down. You need something more than just bleach. You need something like black swan, a type of agent that is so strong it literally can break down the DNA. Something with an acidic base. But all of the cleaning and the mopping very rarely can get rid of trace evidence that you leave behind that is not visible to the naked eye. You go in there and use luminol, then bring out the black light, you can find. And we just saw this in the case of Alex Murdaugh of South Carolina. He didn't realize he was walking around with very fine blood spatter on his shirt. Okay. He couldn't see that, but luminol can see it. So when you think you're cleaning, you're not.
Wow. Well, right.
So don't do it, Dave. Don't murder somebody and then think you're cleaning it up. All right, with 409. That's not going to work.
That's what I always say. And especially not with Nancy Grace in our lives. We don't want to go and do any of these things. But, all joking aside, I know that you kind of got, you got into law really because of your own fiance being like taken away and, killed. Did you ever think when you became a lawyer, like, was there any, like I'm a former corporate lawyer. Did you ever think of doing anything else with your career?
I never thought I was going to be a lawyer to start with. I wanted to be a Shakespearean uh, literature professor, and was finishing up that degree when Keith was murdered. I stupidly read Twitter the other day, and some person wrote in that I was using Keith's murder to further my career. That hurt me. I went for all those years through law school and over a decade prosecuting in inner city Atlanta, and would never mention Keith's murder because I was afraid that somehow maybe a defense attorney would try to have me disqualified from a case. Not that it would have worked, but it could be brought up, and that would be a stumbling block to getting a true verdict. Um, Believe me, if I could change what happened to Keith, I would. But as I was saying, I was just close to finishing my degree in Shakespearean literature, and I was coming out of a statistics exam. And the thing that strikes me the most is inside the hallway leading from the building at Mercer University, it was dark in there. And when I stepped out, it was so bright and beautiful. It was August the 6th. And there were butterflies flying by, and the flowers were blooming. And it's a beautiful, vibrant green campus. And I would have to walk from there all the way across campus to my job at the library. And I looked down, I realized I was going to be late, like 10 minutes late. So I stopped en route and called the library to tell them I was going to be late. And the librarian told me to call Keith's sister. And I immediately knew Keith was dead. I don't know how. And I called her, and I remember my hand